Watch part 1 and 2, and because you will be very confused. And by the way, unrealistic. I also made some random border changes to the map, so spot those if you want. They're all on screen right now, but not anymore. So with this we have Russia mainly being the main supplier for China throughout this whole war. But after a coup goes against the elderly Putin, he actually dies during the coup. We have Siberia becoming fully independent. This is extreme screw up for China because all the Russian-Chinese borders are gone. Although Russia was able to squeeze out two spots just on their slightly valuable lands in the Siberian region. So now Russia split in three, but that's not an even number, so screw it. Four. There you go. Just some useless coastline, no reason. Anyway, so with this, China's they're even more screwed at this point. Almost all of their western region is completely taken from them, and now another push out is being made. The CC also decides to do some stuff over here, so with this they gather their forces. Um, they then decide to try to they are able to plumb through, and they start taking over part of the Chinese rebels, and even receive some mild support from the main Chinese government until they eventually start taking their land. With this, China decides to pound right back on them. With this, they split them into two, and they start pushing back devastatingly on the rebels. They also are able to encircle some other rebels until they are completely wiped out, and they also push into more. Manchuria is also getting really screwed over by China right now, as they are being slowly closed in on and squeezed out of their occupied lands. I almost said something a lot worse. Um, China, although this does come at a cost, as they are pushed out of the DPRK and are even being pushed in from the DPRK now. It is a pretty devastating encirclement though, because the border between the DPRK and China is already heavily guarded enough as it is in our reality. But whatever. So with this, yeah, it's not looking too good. China's only main goal right now is to try to take what they can and hopefully end the war. So with this, they decide to go on an extreme counteroffensive. They push in to the Taiwan territories and wipe out two rebel spots. Eventually, after waiting for the right month, they decide to invade they decide to invade Taiwan. It's extremely devastating. It's probably the hardest thing that they've done throughout this whole war, but they get in. They push down into Taiping, and we see the um what's it called? Taipei, yeah, Taipei. With this, we see the Battle of Taipei, which is the bloodiest battle in the war, and actually in the world history, as it gets 3 million casualties. So, yeah, the reason why China is even able to do this because they're using all the manpower and stuff. Eventually, China's able to get a pretty good amount of Taiwan, but they're almost split in two. And it looks like they're split in two on the map, but in reality, they're not. Eventually Vietnam is able to fully push is able to fully push China out of themselves. And I know this was supposed to be Vietnam versus China, but now it's just kind of extended into something even bigger. Ugh. There we go. Eventually, Vietnam is able to push out the CC, and Cambodia decides to try to get a bite out of it too. Laos decides to take a piece out of the CC as it's going to collapse anytime soon. Cambodia takes a bit out of the CC from what they can get, and Vietnam decides to take over the rest. Although the final one is a push and it actually reaches their capital, which is once again very bloody battle. A couple 100,000 deaths, about 600,000, let's say. Eventually this it is taken though, and they start to push Cambodia out of its controlled territories of the CC. Yeah. Um, I can't speak. Wow. I know there's gonna be people saying, "Wow, is English your first language?" Yes, it is, and I suck at it. With Vietnam fully securing most of their spots, they decide to push out into China. With this, they connect with their old front, which was started a couple years ago, and they continue to push through, bulging right through. Eventually, this takes a lot of Chinese populated areas, and so China decides to go on one last big offensive before they're completely gone forever. And they hope to sign a peace treaty. They push into the CC's lands and almost completely wipe them out. They encircle Vietnam's captured lands and take more of the CC. They push into Jingzhou and reinstate the concentration camps. and they also pushed into Nepal and Bhutan's occupied lands. So with this, China used nearly all of their resources, and each day they're sending out new terms of peace. They're also able to push out some more rebels. With this, America, Vietnam, and Co. all decided to go on their own counteroffensive. With this, they pushed from the DPRK into Manchuria, connecting with the rebels twice. They continue the push down and are now threatening Beijing. Japan gets its happiest wish and now finally invades Nanking. They did it again. Eventually we see another naval landing and Vietnam continuing to push through. Vietnam was also considering an invasion of Laos and Cambodia, but it's going to be postponed. So they decided to just launch a small offensive right in, and they're able to split Laos into two actually. Eventually Chinese forces withdraw from Thailand as they withdraw from Burma as they want to continue the plans to just kind of keep taking. They want to preserve their land. I mean, with this Myanmar is able to squeeze them through into their Thailand part. Nepal, Bhutan, and India also decide to gather up, and they decide to retake their old occupied lands, as they're able to just keep doing their thing. So eventually, the concentration camps are once again rediscovered, and now it's even worse for China. So with this, we see some other countries deciding to get on this war, such as Oman, and now the Middle East is like 6 seconds away from combusting simultaneously, especially with the UAE joining in. We also see Uzbekistan, or is that Turkmen? Yeah, Uzbekistan joins in on this war, and China's getting more screwed. We also see their big trading partner Russia continuing to be shortened down as it starts breaking up into lots of small states. It's not as small as something like the Holy Roman Empire, but God, are they pretty small. And Russia is just continuously getting screwed over and over again. As all the ethnic minorities and minority religions are wanting more freedoms, and it gets into this horrible mess. Yeah, I went everywhere with that. So now with China, all their partners being gone, and even Sri Lanka deciding to join in on the war, we have them basically accepting defeat. Although they're not going to go down to that easily.